So we are now at the bar here. ET just served us what is this called again?
Oh, this is a candy bar drink. It's a variation of the Milky Way.
It is delicious, by the way. So thank you, Matt, for the drink. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the tour. Everything in this place. This has been a lot of fun. I just wanted to sit down and kind of chat a little bit more, kind of tell people a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Obviously, this art thing has taken off. You've been doing this now. How long have you been drawing? I mean,
really, my first memories of drawing, I know before Star Wars came out, I would draw Spider-Man, stick figure little Spider-Man with a red crayon.
That's where I'm at now.
But it was really Star Wars that kind of lit the fire. And I remember when I quickly discovered, we didn't even have video cassettes back then. So we didn't have internet. There was no way to relive our love of Star Wars. So me and all my friends, we would draw TIE fighters. You would draw a capital letter H, and then a circle in the middle of that, and then pew pew, and that was the beginning.
Sounds easy for you. It's still difficult for me to draw those. So it was obviously fun hobby. When did this become like a profession for you?
Slowly over time. There's so many milestone things that happen, but there was never really just an overnight like, oh my gosh, I've made it now. A lot of elbow grease and hard work, probably if there was like an event that most people are interested in, the first time I did something actually for Star Wars that was official, I had heard there was this role-playing game. It was from West End Games. It was the Star Wars role-playing game. And I was in a bar. It was a brand new, huge bookstore in Los Angeles called Barnes and Noble.
Oh, yeah.
And so I went in there and I was looking at all these Star Wars books, and I was flipping through this book called the Star Wars Adventure Journal. And in the back, they were looking for published writers, of all things, not artists, but writers. And I always wanted to write as well as, do artwork and make movies and everything else. So, but I wasn't published. However, I had done my own, like, kind of self-published comic books that I would hand carry to local comic book stores and stuff. So I figured that maybe kind of qualifies. So I sent in my resume. I didn't lie on my resume, but I made myself sound pretty good,
Fair enough.
And I heard back from West End Games. They were willing for me to submit a story. So my next question was, can I do the artwork for it? And they said, listen, relax. We already have a team.
Down.
Yeah, we already have a team of Lucasfilm approved artists, so we're not interested in that. If you want to do some like sketches and then we'll hand it to the real artists, you're welcome to do that. So I wrote the best story I could. I did the best artwork that I could, to submit with it. And I heard back from them pretty quickly, and they were not interested in my storytelling abilities at all. But they said, your artwork is pretty good. Maybe we'll get a hold of you, if there's an opening or something like that. So I figured, well, it was worth a shot. I'll probably never hear from them again. The very next day, my phone rang, and it turns out one of their artists, something happened. I don't know if they got sick or something. Something happened where they weren't able to make the deadline, and they said, we need 5 small black and white illustrations tomorrow. Can you? And this is before email or fax. Yeah. Fax probably did exist, but so I was like, game on. I'm up for the challenge. So I did it. I did the best work that I could, and then the next issue, instead of 5 illustrations, they let me do 7.
Oh wow!
They were still black and white, but eventually they let me do color and full page, and then cover, and things just kind of exploded from there.
So you had like your own little comic book at the beginning that you were...
I did. I started with my own, and it was funny because back then, again, before the internet, I would just draw on typing paper with ballpoint pens. I didn't know anything about drawing on Bristol paper or what the exact size was or proportions, and I would Xerox the pages. I would take them to Office Max, and I would Xerox the pages front and back, and I would hand staple these. They were magazine size because that's all I could find for paper, and then hand deliver them to local comic book stores. And most of the places that I went to were, I'd show them. I'd say, hey, my name is Matt. This is my comic book I draw. If you sell it, you can keep half the money, and I'll come back next month with the next issue. Most places I went to were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, yeah, we'll sell it. That's
cool.
Great.
just open reception for that.
Yeah.
No, that's huge. Now you started doing the Star Wars drawings, or you do a lot of the Star Wars drawings, and then started spreading out. I guess, was it a learning curve? Like, would it go from Star Wars to other styles? Like, because I guess when you're doing this, like, there's something already, like a style already set, and then you can come in to do that. Is it tricky to kind of, mimic a different way of doing things, like to learn each different style?
Part of the secret of my success when I first started is my favorite artist when I was in college is an artist named Drew Struzan, who painted most of the Star Wars posters, most of the Indiana Jones posters, the Back to the Future posters, and he's got this really cool, larger-than-life cinematic style. So when I first started, it's kind of embarrassing, but my work, especially back then, really mimicked his style.
Okay.
And so a lot of places started hiring me, and they would flat out say, "Hey, can you make your signature a little smaller, kind of hide it a little bit? Because we can't afford Drew, but we really want it to look like Drew's work," which was really and later in life, I got to become friends with Drew Struzan, and man, I felt kind of sheepish because like my whole career kind of got started being able to mimic his style.
Right.
To be fair, his style is very similar to other movie poster artists that have come before him, and a lot of movie poster artists also. It's just kind of become... whether he started it or people are trying to look like him, or whether his artwork resembles Richard Amblin or John Alvin, there's kind of a similarity with a lot of the styles. So there's just that look. It's that movie poster illustrated look. And so once I could do that for Star Wars, it was pretty easy. For Indiana Jones or Stranger Things or whatever it is, Lord of the Rings, whatever gets thrown my way. It's just a really cool style that seems to work well. So over time, what's been tricky for me is not all the different properties, but to try to find my own voice so that it's not just trying to look like Drew Struzan and trying to find a unique look that's my own. And I think I'm getting there. I think I've kind of branched. It still has that movie poster look, but I like to think that most people can look at my art now and not necessarily think it's a Drew Struzan, but be like, "Oh my gosh, that's a that's a Matt Busch piece."
No, and it definitely has that look, because I got to meet you prior at Access Hollywood, and then seeing some of your art and just checking out the stuff after meeting you. And literally, I shot you the picture because I was sitting watching a movie. I'm like, wait a minute, the poster on the wall feels like something you would have done.
Yeah.
And I ran over and looked, and there's your autograph on this poster. It's been on my wall. So, it's you definitely have a style there that I think is unique, that is recognizable now in the stuff that you're putting out there, especially like the Stranger Things is just beautiful. That stuff turned out really cool. Do you find with like art changing over the years, because like you said, you were stapling paper, drawing on paper with pencil. Now with the different style, I feel like there's so many different options, especially with the digital era coming in with drawing tablets. Mm-hmm. Do you find, like you touched a little bit earlier, that you did do something digital? Do you still prefer just kind of pen and paper or pencil and paper to the digital area that's coming out, or are you kind of adapting over to?
For myself, I do like working with my hands. I like creating a one-of-a-kind piece of artwork. I like the idea of creating this piece that exists, and then if there's posters and art prints, they're reproductions of that, but you're creating like a single piece of artwork. For myself, that's not to say I'm against digital or anything like that. Some of my favorite artists are digital artists. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really awesome tool. I've used it a little bit. I've had a lot of fun with it. But for myself, I just like working with my hands. It's what I like to do. That said, every painting that I do gets scanned in. I pull it up in Photoshop. I'm bumping levels. I'm cleaning it up. Sometimes I'm fixing an area that maybe I botched with the painting somewhere. So I'm a huge proponent of the digital medium, but I still like to I like to draw and paint myself. I like holding onto a pencil. I like feeling exactly what it's doing as I do it.
It's fascinating because I've been watching your YouTube page, and the amount of stuff that's out there, I guess, for drawing, the little details. I'm not an artist, but to see the world and the amount of, just like you said, a different feel of papers, the different grades of papers, the different types of pencil.
The Artigan tinted paper comes in a pad with varying earth tones that are perfect as a middle ground to work with.
Even down to what eraser works best.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that. And is that just all trial and error for you, I guess, coming up? Or
A lot of it is, and I picked up, there are some tips I picked up in school. There's some tips I picked up at going to comic book conventions and talking to artists, that I was a fan of. There's some tips that I picked up watching YouTube videos, not just mine that I made, but other, watching other great videos. So you learn tips everywhere, but a lot of it is trial and error, because what works for one artist, they may have a really cool shading technique, and how come when I do it, it looks like garbage? You know? So a lot of it is trial and error, and then you start using more of the things that you like and that are going to work well, and the stuff that doesn't work as well, let's leave that part out of the process.
And I love watching yourself, and you teach. I love like the passion that you have for all this, because it seems like you get a joy out of helping other people accomplish these goals, and it's great to watch, because I love how you help people. When people are coming to you for drawing, is drawing, I would imagine there has to be like a certain part that has to be like a natural talent to get going, or do you find that you can take people like me and actually be able to teach me to draw Star Wars?
I actually firmly believe that anyone can learn to draw, anyone can do it, but there's two things you need to have. You need to have the drive, you need to have the passion, so you have to want it, but also you have to practice. So usually people that can't draw, it's one of two things. Either they don't want it enough, like they're not, when they go to bed at night, is it the last thing you're thinking about? Is like, oh, drawing, I love drawing and painting, like I want to be such a good artist. Is it the last thing you're thinking about? The other half is just the practice. So like you said, you can barely draw a stick figure, right? How often do you practice that?
Right. Not enough.
So there's the obvious answer. But so I think anyone, I firmly believe that anyone can do it, and part of my wanting to be a teacher was because I had some really great teachers when I was a student, and in particular when I went to Los Angeles at Art Center. I had a lot of teachers that were working on actual video games or working on actual Star Wars books. And so having them as teachers, as mentors, that they were taking the time, they just loved. I'll never forget, I had this one teacher, and I came in, I was always early, right? So I came in, I was 15 minutes early. The teacher was already there. And the teacher was drawing all this amazing stuff on the board. And I remember the teacher stopped, said something to himself. I was the only other person in the room, but he said it out loud, so clearly he knew that I was going to hear it. And he was almost in tears, and he said, now I can't remember what he said, but he said something like, I can't stop drawing. I just love drawing so much.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. And I remember just seeing that passion, and like I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. Like
that's awesome.
That is like, I'm not alone in this world. I love it too. Oh my gosh, that's so great,
So how did that passion, now you've got the illustrations done, and we were talking about Aladdin 3477. How did that passion, I guess, lead over to the film world?
So working in Hollywood, working in Los Angeles, I should back up. As a kid, my parents had a VHS camera where I didn't have any editing software or anything like that, but I had a VCR, and I could film stuff. And if I did all my cuts by just hitting the stop button, and then we rehearse, so if any bloopers ended up right in the movie, so I couldn't edit anything, but I would film movies, like ninja movies in order. So there was a natural thing where not a natural talent, but where I definitely wanted to make movies.
Had a passion all along for it.
But because I was, not that I was poor and I lived in a cardboard box, but my parents didn't have a lot of money, and I knew back then film school, before the digital revolution, film was really expensive. So going to film school was like going to medical school. Like that was just crazy. So that kind of steered me more towards being an artist, because I knew art school isn't cheap and art supplies aren't cheap, but it's definitely cheaper than something like film would have been.
Right.
So that was kind of the initial route that I took. But working in Los Angeles, storyboarding movies, being around film sets, I just loved it, and I wanted it so bad. I wanted to do it. So with the digital revolution, I started learning editing, and I started making my own art videos and stuff. But I started making my own short films, my own feature films, and a lot of them were just filmed on a crappy Sony Handycam. And but I
Actually,
started,
that's what we're filming.
that's
right
what we're
now.
filming
No.
on a Sony Handycam. That's a nice Canon. But you know, it was funny. After I made my first short, it was a psychological thriller, or supernatural thriller, I should say. And I started like at Blockbuster. I would rent these really bad horror movies, and I started thinking, you know, I know my movie isn't like that great, but it's probably better than like some of the stuff I can rent. I wonder if I could get a distribution deal. So I set up a plan for all these places I was going to hit, and almost immediately I got a distribution deal for North America, which included like Netflix and
wow.
Blockbuster and all these video stores and stuff, Target and Walmart and stuff. Like, it was crazy. Then, as soon as I signed that deal, the very next day, it was like one of the first places on my list contacted me, and they wanted worldwide rights, but I had already signed a deal for North American rights with this other company. So the funny thing was, I said, well, I can ask them, they might be willing to let you have rights outside of North America, and they were. So I actually signed a deal, a second deal for worldwide outside of North America.
Wow.
And they changed the name of it, but everyone was fine with it.
Get
And
it
so
out
I
there.
had 2 distribution deals. Yeah.
So it took, we were talking earlier, it took 5 years of filming Aladdin 3477. When did the idea come to you? When did this all start?
Gosh, so the idea was in college, and I really, not only was I inspired by Star Wars, I've always been really inspired by George Lucas. Not just to work for Star Wars, but to become George Lucas, to write my own story, to create my own characters, to walk into a store and see my own like stuffed animals of my own characters.
Right.
So any artist will tell you, like, it's one thing if you've got something like Star Wars, someone buys your artwork and it's got Boba Fett, you know, on the artwork, or Baby Yoda. You know, it feels great. They're like, oh my gosh, you're so good. I love your artwork. But I didn't create Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda isn't mine. Boba Fett isn't mine. The Star Wars universe, I have nothing to do with it. I'm hired to make it look good and to make it look pretty, but I can't really take credit for it. So any artist will tell you, if they have their own comic book that they create or something with their own characters, it's one thing when someone comes up to them and says, oh my gosh, that piece you did of Captain America, I just love your artwork. Like, yeah, that's great, that's nice. But when they come up to them and say, you know, that comic book that you created, where you created like your own characters, like your babies, oh my gosh, it's like my favorite comic. Like, that makes us melt. And we're just like, oh my, it's through the roof, because that we truly can say, this is ours, we created this, it's our own thing. So in college, I started writing and putting together what was going to be my sci-fi saga. And slowly over time, there's a long drawn-out story behind it, but eventually it became part of the Aladdin story, the Aladdin tale, but set in the future. And so we started filming. It was probably 2010 that I put my foot down and said, okay, I need to start doing this. So I started getting people together, having meetings, building props and stuff like that. Then it wasn't until 2014 that we started filming, and actually in 2012 traveled the world, got background plates in China, Kingdom of Cambodia, India, Thailand, Hong Kong, and then I think the following year got additional background plates in oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the country. I'm blanking, but it's beautiful, and it's right by Germany, Switzerland.
Okay.
Switzerland, and for the the scene, the kind of the a whole new world.
Oh, okay.
It's not exactly that, but there is a very romantic scene of a sky sail flying through the beautiful Switzerland mountains, and we actually chartered a helicopter to fly through the mountains, and I got the footage.
Oh, wow.
In a helicopter for that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we are all done filming 5 years later.
Yes, that's 6 years now.
6 years. What was some of the biggest challenges that you had during that? Obviously, with a film this scale, I imagine there were quite a few, but do any like really stand out that you guys just...
A big one was money, maxing out credit cards. When I started, I actually had a big chunk of money from George Lucas, actually, who George, at the time, he would buy pretty much every piece of Star Wars art and every drawing and painting that I did. Now that's on top of the artwork that I did. If I got hired to do like a book cover or something, George Lucas gets the first right of refusal because he's a passionate art collector. So I would get paid to do the work, and then if he bought the artwork as well, it was like, oh my gosh. So I started saving all this money. Like, I'm going to take all the money from Uncle George and I'm going to make this movie. Within a month of filming, all that money was gone.
Needed to go back to Uncle George.
Gone. Yeah, I did. So I had to like keep taking jobs, Star Wars gigs, not because I wanted to. I really wanted to finish the movie, but I needed the money. So anytime something came through, if it was a well-paying gig, I had to take it because I had to. Some people worked for free, but some people were professionals that I had to pay. So so money was a big thing. Also, we were building sets. We were renting a sound stage, but it's a relatively small sound stage. So we would finish one set. Well, we would have to tear everything down. We'd have to build it right back up, and we didn't have a crew of thousands of people like a lot of these other big studios had. It was like me, my two dads, and sometimes maybe someone would come from cast and crew. But I tried not to. Beggars can't be choosers, so I would really try to utilize people's help on days that we were actually shooting. Mm-hmm. Those were a lot more exciting, So sometimes it would be as quick as a week to turn over a new set. Sometimes it would be, I think our Taj Mahal throne room took like a year and 4 months to build that. Now we were filming other stuff on location to not waste the time, but I think that set was like a year and 4 months to do the Taj Mahal throne room.
Wow.
Yeah, that was nuts.
And people don't realize the amount of work that the behind the scenes, and especially on a project like this. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate that we got to see some of the footage, but the amount of detail that you've poured into this is just amazing. I was trying to not even just look so much of what was going on in the scene as everything around it, and mm-hmm. everything is just spot on to detail, and I can't wait to see the whole thing together. It's in post right now. Are you doing all the editing, or do you have some help editing?
I'm doing all the editing, but I have a couple people that are helping me out just to have a second pair of eyes. So like my girlfriend Casey, she's really good because she's a writer, but she doesn't have a background in movie making. So she's not looking for a lot of the things or noticing a lot of the things that other people would. So that's one of the hard things when you sit down with someone to edit who's a filmmaker. They're looking at the things you're shooting, but they're asking like, what kind of lens did you use for this? Or what kind of mic was, you know what I mean?
Right.
Where I can sit down with her and she's just looking at it as someone who loves movies. And that's kind of what I want, because of course I want everyone to like this. So someone that makes movies, of course I want them to geek out and be like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. You used a global sensor inside your camera. Like, brilliant. That's perfect, right?
I don't know what that is.
So,
no.
But one of the great things about working with her is she's just looking at the movie for what it is. And so she'll look at things like, the look on Aladdin's face is really weird there. There's something about it. Like, that's what I want to know.
Right.
Sometimes it's not just the technical things, but I want to know the acting, what looks off here, what's, because this movie, of course I want to make for critics and for filmmakers. I want them to enjoy it too, but it's such a small percentage of who's going to see this. Hopefully a lot of people see this.
A lot of people.
But I want to make this for the largest audience possible, and so I'm really trying to make it something for everyone, and so I feel like it helps to get it in front of a lot of different people's eyes.
I think you make a great point when making film or creating something like this. I think with the critical views or just the mentality, I think a lot of people get lost in that instead of just, this is all supposed to be entertainment. It is all supposed to be fun. Mm-hmm. And to watch a movie and worry about the lens or that, I can't let myself get that technical. I always preach it, is watch it for what it is and like enjoy what they were creating to show you. Just take it for the ride that it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And you enjoy more that way. It's, like the Wild Wild West isn't supposed to be Gone with the Wind. Like, just sit down and enjoy some fun. That's my guilty pleasure. I always talk about Wild Wild West as nobody liked it, but I enjoy it. It's one of those movies, if it's on, I have to watch it, but it's a fun ride. And you make a great point of who's gonna watch it? And I think too many people get too lost and make it more difficult or more worried about that aspect instead of enjoying the ride and it being fun. So I love that, and I think that kind of goes with what you were saying earlier, that you're a 12-year-old at heart, and I think it shows because you want to have fun doing this.
Yeah.
Obviously it was stressful making. Do you have any like fun stories or something that like was fun during filming on these that just didn't see coming, or
yeah, there was things I was a part of, and then there were things that I wasn't a part of. So there's a behind the scenes video that I didn't show you, but one day we were filming on set for, I believe, 17 hours straight. And at one point, I think we had a tough technical difficulty in something that I was assisting with. So everyone else decided to go to Dairy Queen, but dressed up as the characters that they were. So also behind the scenes went. So we actually have a behind the scenes video, and I'm not even there. Like, I so wish that I was there. I'm not even there. But everyone's dressed up as all these characters, either futuristic or from the other side of the world. There's a character named Bang who's a Hindu monk, so he's dressed up in the orange sash or whatever. And they're hanging out behind the counter with the manager and stuff. They had this riot. It was so fun at Dairy Queen, and I totally missed out.
Did they at least bring you back a dilly bar?
Gosh, I think they did bring me something back. I think a slushie or something like that. It was a really hot day. But
how do you stay motivated? Obviously, it's a project that's close and passionate to you, but I mean, that's a long time to be working on a project. What were some things you kind of did to keep yourself motivated, keep pushing through?
Gosh, it's the kind of thing where once you pull the trigger, you kind of have to keep going. There was so many times where I wanted to quit. I don't think there was a time I was ever close to quitting, but there were so many times that I was kind of over it. But after all of these people help you, whether you're paying them or not paying them, like, if I were to quit, I would be letting so many people down, because so many people put their faith in me and the project and everything. So it's just not even a question. It's something that I have to do. There's definitely sometimes when I'm working on it, whether I'm editing or doing VFX now or sound, there's plenty of other things I'd rather be doing. But I just, I have to do it. And I think a lot of what I can't wait for it to be out, and I can't wait for people to be excited about it. Like, we already have some fans, we already have some people that are very interested in it, and they can't wait to see it. But I think, like, once it comes out and people really see what this is like, not that I think this is going to be another Star Wars. I have no weird I know exactly what this is and what this isn't, but I think there is going to be a cult following. I think there is going to be a fan base, however big or small that is. And I think once they start seeing it, once they even start seeing some of the footage that you guys saw today,
which is pretty awesome,
I think people are really going to start getting excited for it. And I think we've got lightning in a bottle. I think we got something really cool that people are going to like. And if not, it's going to be the greatest drinking game ever, where you watch the movie and every time something really cheesy happens, you're just like, cheers, here we go.
I like it. Those are the best. No, I am super excited for this to come out. I know right now you're saying we're not setting timelines. There's a lot of work that needs to get done. I respect that process. I think that's a very smart move, and I'm excited for that, because it lets you do this on your time and you're going to do it right. So it's amazing watching how many different I don't know what phrase I'm going for, like how many different baskets your hands are in, because you are all over this, from the directing it to the editing. Are you doing the sound design? And so are you going out and getting like raw sound effects like Star Wars style?
I wish, and I would love to do all of that, but it's just, that would be another 10 years just getting that. I don't have an army of that. I do have a lot of help. I definitely should mention for sound, Rick Veers was on board at first. He got so busy that he had to back out after the first year and a half.
Yep. So I have to ask, because we're on the sound discussion, and you're a George Lucas fan, will the Wilhelm scream make an appearance in Aladdin 3477?
Of course. Yes. Are you kidding? How can it not?
We have to have it in there, so that's huge. What are some other things here people can look forward to here? You have some more Star Wars Celebration that you'll be attending. This is in Anaheim?
Yeah, the Star Wars Celebration this year is in Anaheim in August in California. So I will be there.
How are those events? Are they a lot of fun?
Oh my gosh, they're
I've not been to one yet. It's a bucket list.
Amazing. It's just like, it's so cool because it's all Star Wars. And there's something about Star Wars, and maybe this is true of other fandoms as well, but Star Wars is so big and it's so vast in terms of, some people grew up with the original trilogy, some people grew up with the prequels, some people like Clone Wars is where it's at, right? So it's all these different things, but it's all Star Wars. And when you're a Star Wars fan, even if there's just something specific Star Wars that you love, some people just love the costumes, some people collect the trading cards, some people just love the movies and they don't care about all the other stuff. But whatever it is, when you go there, it's family and there's this common bond, and just everyone is friends and family, and it's such a great party, and everyone's in good spirits, and we all share this common love for a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. How can you argue with that? I think that's a good note to end on, but
yeah,
I can't let you off the hook just yet, because Attack on Show, we always have to ask you the 5 questions to see if you achieve attacker status. So are you ready for the challenge?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so I had to put these on my phone this time. So you're currently already drinking out of the Attack on Show glass.
Yes.
We couldn't wait to break it in. But you do have to get 100% on these 5 questions to keep it. So no pressure.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no pressure. So these are the 5 questions to see if you achieve attacker status. Number 1, who do you think would win in a fight? Lumpa-Raroo or Wicket? That was Chewie's son. What's Lumpa-Raroo?
Wicket.
Wicket?
Yeah,
he's a little bit of a savage.
With that spear? Are you kidding?
That takes it. Wicket was the right one.
Okay.
All right, so we're 1 for 1. Number 2, what would you rather pilot? The Millennium Falcon or Eagle 5 from Spaceballs?
Oh, Millennium Falcon.
Instead of the Winnebago?
Yeah. You know what's funny? So I have a quick thing on that, if I can.
Yes.
When I was a kid, when Spaceballs came out, I saw it and it was funny, but it kind of made me angry, because as a Star Wars fan, that's sacrilegious. Like, it's really not that funny. Like, you don't make fun of Star Wars. That's my thing.
There's a few parts that are pretty good in it.
Yeah,
though.
there are.
But I totally get where you're coming from. All right, 2 for 2. Who would not pilot the Millennium Falcon? Number 3, which depiction of the future of a time that is now past do you wish was real? So a movie that showed the future, but now we've come to that time and it didn't quite happen. But which one do you wish was real? Back to the Future 2's future or Blade Runner?
Gosh. The way that it looks, or just the way the future is?
The way...
actually having to live in that future.
Actually living in.
Ooh, I'm going to go with Back to the Future 2.
Yeah.
That would be way more fun to live. But just on aesthetics alone, the way that it looks, I would have to say Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
The way that it looks. But actually having to live there
it's
for the rest
gruesome,
of my life.
Yeah.
No replicants running everywhere and stuff.
Back to the Future 2.
Much
brighter. It was like a lot more fun. All right, we're 3 for 3. We're cruising through these. Number 4. Let's see. You can have one cool sidekick robot. Do you pick Jinx, who was the sidekick robot from Space Camp? I don't know if you've seen that.
It's been a long time.
Or Sicko, the robot from Rocky IV.
Oh my gosh. I've seen both of those, but it's been so long. I remember, you know what, I'm going to have to say Rocky IV just because I remember what it looks like.
Yeah. And it always brought out cool food. And no, that was it, because it just took care of you. I remember it delivered everything to you. You just have to sit around and order
Do you know that part of what they used for that robot is actually part of what Fiji is?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Yeah. This is perfect.
If you look at it and turn pieces upside down and around and glue them differently, there's actually pieces of that same...
Take a second look.
Yeah.
So awesome. Yeah. All right, you take it 4 for 4. So one more and the glass is yours to keep.
Woohoo!
Let's see. This is where we always ask, which is better, the original movie or the remake? So you pick which one you think was better.
Okay.
The original in this case being Les Miserables, or the remake being Aladdin. Very similar.
Oh,
Boy Steals
so
Bread.
the remake of Les Miserables and then the remake
Aladdin
of Aladdin
could be considered. No, Aladdin could be considered a remake of Les Miserables when you look at the plot.
Oh,
So they're
you know
very
what?
similar.
I've seen I saw the new Les Miserables, but I'm not like as familiar with the whole thing as much. I'm gonna have to go with Aladdin because I'm total like Aladdin's my thing, and I've seen all of them and
Even Return of the Jafar?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
But I've seen like the Hindi one and the French
Yes.
one, and you know.
That takes it 5 for 5. That glass is yours to keep.
Woo-hoo!
Congratulations. Matt, I can't thank you enough for inviting me out here today to take a look around.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking the time. Tell everybody where can they go to find out more about Aladdin, and then also get some of that fantastic merchandise you got there.
So Aladdin3477.com. Aladdin is 2Ds, 3477.com. And then anything, both for Aladdin, but anything Star Wars, Stranger Things, any of that fun stuff, you can go to Matt Busch Store. Busch is spelled B-U-S-C-H, like the beer, not like the shrub.
Busch.
And
And we got the links below as well, so we'll make it
Awesome.
very easy on you guys. Make sure you click below, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we always find great talent like Matt here. This has been awesome. So everybody, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Ravi. We got Matt Busch. Matt, you want to tell them the name of the show?
the name is Attack on Show. Woohoo!